Imagine this, you walk into a store. You see something you really need, maybe a new pair of shoes or even a simple kitchen appliance. But the moment you think about buying it, your heart starts racing. Your mind says, wait, what if I regret this later? And suddenly you put it back. Have you ever felt this strange fear of spending money even when it's necessary? This is not just about saving money. This is about a deep psychological pattern that millions of people experience worldwide. Some call it spending anxiety. Others describe it as a constant guilt whenever. But why does this happen? Why do some people feel safe only when their money is untouched, even if their needs are real? And most importantly, how does this fear shape their life, their relationships, and their future? Think about it. Why do some people hesitate to buy even basic things while others spend freely without worry? Why does the thought of spending trigger stress, guilt, or even panic in certain individuals? Is this fear connected to childhood experiences, financial struggles, or maybe cultural beliefs? And what happens when this fear becomes so strong that it stops people from enjoying life? In this video, you will get clear and authentic answers to all these questions. We'll explore the psychology behind the fear of spending money, understand its roots, and see how it affects everyday decisions. By the end, you all know exactly why this happens and what it means for people who live with this mindset. Now let's start by looking at the definition of spending fear. Psychologists often refer to this as a form of anxiety, sometimes linked to what is called chrematophobia, a fear of money itself. But in most cases, it's not about money as an object. It's about the act of letting go, the act of spending. People who experience this often believe that once money is gone, their security is gone too. This belief creates a cycle of hesitation, guilt, and avoidance. For example, research in behavioral psychology shows that individuals who grew up in financially unstable households often develop a scarcity mindset. They believe resources are always limited, so spending feels dangerous. Even when their financial situation improves, the old fear stays with them. Another authentic example comes from studies on consumer behavior. People with high anxiety levels tend to delay purchases, even if those purchases are essential, like healthcare or education. This delay can actually harm them in the long run. But the fear feels stronger than logic. So the fear of spending money is not just about being careful or frugal. It's about a deeper psychological struggle. It's about control, about safety, and about the fear of regret. And understanding this is the first step to breaking free from it. When fear of spending takes hold, it does not just appear in isolated moments, it becomes a pattern. People who struggle with this anxiety often show very specific behaviors that reveal how deeply the fear controls them. Behavioral patterns. They overthink every purchase, no matter how small. A simple decision like buying a cup of coffee can turn into a mental debate. They hesitate even with essential, delaying medical checkups, avoiding necessary repairs, or postponing education expenses. They prefer saving over living. Money accumulates in their accounts, but they rarely allow themselves to use it. They seek bargains obsessively, not because they enjoy deals, but because paying full price feels unbearable. They sometimes avoid shopping altogether, choosing discomfort over the stress of spending. These behaviors may look like discipline from the outside, but inside they are driven by fear. And fear, when repeated, creates consequences that reach far beyond finances. Consequences. Quality of life suffers. People miss out on experiences, travel, hobbies, even simple joys because spending feels unsafe. Relationships strain. Family members or partners may feel frustrated when necessary expenses are resisted. This can lead to conflict, especially when one person's fear limits the household. Opportunities are lost. Education, investments, or career growth often require spending. Fear can block progress, keeping people stuck where they are. Mental health impact. Constant anxiety around money increases stress levels, sometimes leading to depression or social withdrawal. Psychologists emphasize that this fear is not rational, it's emotional. The brain interprets spending as a threat, even when logic says otherwise. That's why people with stable incomes can still feel unsafe every time they open their wallet. And hear the critical point: the longer these patterns continue, the stronger they become. Fear builds habits, and habits shape identity. A person begins to see themselves not just as cautious, but as someone who cannot spend without guilt. This is where the psychology becomes most powerful, because it shows us that the fear of spending is not about money at all. It's about safety, control, and the human need to avoid regret. In the next part, we'll explore how people can begin to break this cycle. What strategies actually work? How can someone shift from fear to balance? And how can they learn to see money not as a threat, but as a tool? Fear of spending money may feel permanent, but psychology shows us that it can be managed and even reversed. The key lies in shifting the way the brain interprets money, from a source of threat to a tool for security and growth. Number 1. Mindset shift. Psychologists emphasize that money is not safety itself, it is a resource. People who fear spending often confuse saving with survival. The first step is reframing spending on essentials or opportunities. Is not losing money, it is investing in well-being. For example, paying for healthcare is not an expense, it is protection. Paying for education is not a loss, it is growth. Number 2. Controlled budgeting. Creating a clear spending plan reduces guilt. When every dollar has a purpose, the brain feels safer. Research in behavioral finance shows that people with structured budgets experience less anxiety because they know exactly what is allowed to be spent. This turns spending from a threat into a planned action. Number 3. Small exposure steps. Therapists often recommend gradual exposure for anxiety. The same applies here. Start with small, low-risk purchases like buying a book or treating yourself to a meal. Over time, the brain learns that spending does not equal danger. Each positive experience weakens the fear response. Number 4. Professional support. In severe cases, counseling or therapy can help. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is particularly effective in addressing spending anxiety because it challenges irrational beliefs and replaces them with balanced thinking. Number 5. Balance between saving and living. Healthy financial psychology is not about extremes. Saving is important, but so is living. Studies show that people who allow themselves controlled enjoyment, travel, hobbies, experiences report higher satisfaction and lower stress. The goal is not reckless spending, but balanced spending. So the fear of spending money is not a permanent identity, it is a habit shaped by anxiety. With mindset shifts, structured planning, and gradual exposure, people can learn to see money not as a threat, but as a tool. In the next part, we'll explore real-life examples and case studies that show how individuals overcame this fear and what lessons we can take from their journey. Picture this: your wallet is full, your bank account is stable, yet the simple act of spending feels like danger. The fear isn't about numbers, it's about identity. You do not just hesitate, you begin to see yourself as someone who cannot spend without guilt. This fear is not rare. Research in consumer psychology shows that people raised in unstable financial environments often carry a scarcity mindset into adulthood. Even when their situation improves, the fear remains. One documented case involved a professional who avoided upgrading essential work tools, convinced it was wasted money. Over time, his career stalled until therapy and structured budgeting helped him reframe spending as investment, not loss. Another impactful example comes from healthcare studies. Individuals with high spending anxiety often delay medical treatment, fearing the cost more than the risk. The result is greater harm, proving how fear can override logic. These examples reveal a truth. The fear of spending money is not about finances. It's about how people define themselves. When fear becomes identity, every purchase feels like a threat to safety. So ask yourself, are you someone who saves because it's wise, or someone who avoids spending because it feels unsafe? Recognizing the difference is the beginning of change. Money is not your enemy, it is a tool, and your relationship with it shapes your life. If this perspective resonates, share your experience in the comments. How do you see yourself when it comes to money? Cautious, anxious, or balanced? By reflecting together, we can build a healthier understanding of money and ourselves. And for more insights into psychology and finance, subscribe and continue exploring how the mind shapes financial decisions.